Amen. Thank you, Steph. All right, let's go back to the back corner for a second. 31 years. Next table. 59.
60 back here.
So that's 90 years right there. Did I add right? I think so. And then how many in the back?
60.
60. 150 years of combined marital bliss is right there. If anyone needs any advice, that's where you want to head, okay? Right in that. Matt, you're going to have to move out of there, okay, and let the people talk right there. That's amazing. That's amazing. Congratulations on all of those things. So, neat. So, all right. So here we are. We're talking about the Christmas light. Kind of looking at all these different images and ideas of the Christmas light as we look at the birth of Christ and what that means to our lives and what does Jesus mean to our lives, to being the light of the world. So last week we talked about, kind of challenged ourselves with two questions here: is what are you following and where are you headed? So we looked at the story of the Magi and how they followed the star to Jesus. So kind of like what we talk about, what are we following? Are we following something that leads us to Jesus? So that's where what we talked about last week. And now this week we're going to head down a different path. And that would be lighting the path for others to follow. See, that was a really good pun, but you didn't know about what we're talking about. So I said we're heading down a different path. What time is it? It's Christmas time. But I know you're all depressed that the Browns didn't play today. That's what it is, isn't it?
They didn't lose.
They didn't lose. We should be very excited about that. They didn't. Yeah, they didn't lose. So, all right. So our talk about lighting the path for others to follow. So we need to get to know one person here in the Bible, and this guy's name is Zechariah. Zechariah, at the time that this part in the story, was a fairly old person, probably older than any of the couples back there. I would think so. Zechariah kind of had a lineage in his family of being involved with the priest. And so this was way before Jesus, not way before, just a little bit actually before Jesus was born, but the tradition of worship is what really went back a long time for them. And that's when they had created a temple, and then there was like these different stations inside the temple, but only one time a year could one person go in that temple. And they rolled actually lots or like dice kind of thing. They rolled that, and then based on what number came up, you got to go in there. But when you went in there, it was like you and God face to face, basically, is really what is going on. So if you could put yourself in that, imagine that, you and God kind of face to face. So Zechariah was a priest. And so it was his turn to go into the temple and to talk with God on behalf of God, on behalf of the people. He went in there. And so he got in there, and God said to him, "Hey, Zechariah, your wife is going to have a baby." And Zechariah was like, "You've got to be kidding me." I think that's pretty much the exact words he said. "You've got to be kidding me. No way. We're way too old. We're past that. Nobody's having any babies here." So God did only what he could do with somebody who really didn't believe, is he silenced him. He silenced him. He couldn't talk even if he tried to. He could not talk until the baby was born. So, God kind of put him in that little timeout and said, "Okay, you just watch what I'll do," right? So he put Zechariah, he couldn't speak. So finally the time came, the baby was born, and they were about to name the baby. And they throwing around a couple different names. Let's name it after Zechariah. No, let's name it, after this person, this. And then he finally spoke out loud and said, "No, his name is to be John." And they're like, "John? We don't have any Johns in our family." That's the name. That's what God told me. So that's kind of a little bit of background on Zechariah. And then we pick it up right here in Luke chapter 1. And this is actually kind of verse 67. It's called the Psalm of Zechariah. So let's see what he says here in this. "His father Zechariah was filled with the Holy Spirit and prophesied. Praise be to the Lord, the God of Israel, because he has come to his people and redeemed them. He has raised up a horn of salvation for us in the house of his servant David, as he said through his holy prophets of long ago. Salvation from our enemies and from the hand of all who hate us. To show mercy to our ancestors and to remember his holy covenant, the oath he swore to our father Abraham, to rescue us from the hand of our enemies and to enable us to serve him without fear, in holiness and righteousness before him all our days. And you, my child, will be called the prophet of the Most High, for you will go on before the Lord to prepare the way for him. Right, so this is John, and this is who he's talking about. But let's read that one again. For you will go on before the Lord to prepare the way for him. Right? To give his people the knowledge of salvation through the forgiveness of their sins. Because of the tender mercy of our God, by which the rising sun will come to us from heaven, to shine on those living in darkness and in the shadow of death, to guide our feet into the path of peace. So when I read through that passage and I think, you know what, to me, John is kind of like a tour guide. You know, a tour guide, you know, where you go somewhere new and there's a lot to see, but you don't know where to start or where to look at or what to do. You get a good tour guide that kind of leads you along the path. Hey, look at that. Make sure you check this out. Don't forget this. Or maybe they even take you, like, you know, a little bit off the path and can kind of show you some other things. So that's what kind of I get as I read that, thinking, wow, so John is kind of leading the way for us and kind of showing us before Jesus came around. Now, if we go back to verse 79 and look at this, it says, kind of, to me, this is kind of what our job is, right? To shine on those living in darkness and in the shadow of death, to guide our feet into the path of peace. So there it is. That's kind of what we should be doing. We can be people that show light for other people who are stuck in darkness, or even just, you know, really struggling, basically, as I look at it with life. So that's what we're supposed to do. So what we should not be doing would be the opposite, which would be we are not to cause people to stumble in their faith. We are not to cause them to stumble. And you know, it's very, very easy to stumble in our faith, isn't it? Much more so than stumbling in real life. And you know, we all have trouble with that. Here, take a look at this little video of stumbling, just to get our minds in the right area here. Stumbling. Now those are ninjas were put in there. But, you know, have you ever just been walking and just fell? No, I'm not the only person, am I? Come on. Help me out here, people. Wake up. I need a round of coffee for everyone in here. Let's go. What time is it? It's Christmas time. Right, so we're not supposed to cause people to stumble in their faith. We have enough trouble walking around as it is. And even in our faith, we have sometimes it can really be a challenge. So we are not to stumble. So let's look at a couple passages here that kind of encourage us to not to do that, or why we shouldn't be stumbling, having people stumble. Matthew 16, verse 22. Now this is Jesus talking to Peter. And we know that Peter was one of his disciples and one of his, BFFs here. So let's see what he said to him here, okay? Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. "Never, Lord," he said, "this shall never happen to you." And Jesus turned and said to Peter, "Now get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me. You do not have in mind the concerns of God, but merely human concerns." Wait, go ahead and go back to that for a second. So as we look at this here, it says, "You are a stumbling block to me." And I think it's kind of interesting to point out here as we look at this one. It doesn't say, now Jesus was talking to his good friend Peter. So I don't know, have you ever had friends that cause you to stumble in life in many ways? We can look at it a couple of ways, but it doesn't say to get rid of them. It doesn't say, leave me and never come back. It simply says, get out of my way. Right now, you're a stumbling block to me because you don't have the mind of God right now. And so I think we can probably apply that in a lot of different ways in our life with the people around us, even who we're working with and such like that. Not to be, I think we can always offer grace to people and hope and know that there's a possibility here. But for right now, you're being a stumbling block to me. Now we go ahead 2 chapters in Matthew, and we see Matthew 18. And now this one here is this one's kind of close to my heart. This is talking about kids, right? Kids in this particular one. I was involved with youth ministry for many years. And this one says, if anyone causes one of these little ones, so the kids, those who believe in me, to stumble, it would be better for them to have a large millstone hung around their neck and to be drowned in the depths of the sea. Is that clear, people? Right? You can tell by the language there, not a good thing to do if anyone causes one of these little ones. And then it says here in 7, woe to the world because of the things that cause people to stumble. Such things must come, but woe to the person whom they come. So things that cause people to stumble, especially when it comes to their faith. The number one reason people will either leave church or they don't come to church even at all. Do you know what that is? That churches are hypocritical. Hypocritical, right? There it is. I know one particular youth I remember as I was working in my youth ministry, he'd come to some meetings here and there, and then he finally showed up in church one morning, and I could tell he dressed the best he could. He had what he had on, and it was all black. And he's a nice guy, but didn't know very much about it. And then he had these shoes on too that nails were sticking straight out. And that's just kind of his thing right now. Sure, not very safe, but I thought it was cool that he's in church. And somebody had walked by and kind of remarked that his shoes just weren't appropriate for being in church like that. And do you think that guy came back next week or the week after? I never saw him there again. But to understand that as we're lighting this path to Jesus, we do have a responsibility here, especially with our kids and our youth. 1 Corinthians 10 says, so whether you eat or drink or whatever you do it all for the glory of God. Do not cause anyone to stumble, whether Jews, Greeks, or the church of God. That's basically saying anybody, right? Do not cause anyone to stumble, even as I try to please everyone in every way. For I'm not seeking my own good, but the good of many, so that they might be saved. There's a lot of scripture here just reminding us to not cause someone to stumble. So the question, are you being a light that shines on Jesus? Are you being a light so that the way you act, the things you say, the way you conduct yourself, is that shining the light on Jesus? If people look at you and kind of see you, do people come to you and say, hey, I'm having a rough time, would you pray with me, or could you give me some guidance on this? Are you being that light that really shines on Jesus? Now, there's a movie clip here I want to show you from Apollo 13. Did you ever watch that one with Tom Hanks? Man, what an amazing story that they're shot into outer space and now they have to get back. This particular clip talks about one of the times Tom was flying a plane and he was headed back to the aircraft carrier. And he needed something to lead him to it. And so we'll watch this little scene here and then we'll pick up after that.
Commander Jim Lovell had floor time in space almost 24 days already than any other man. And I asked him recently if he ever was scared.
Oh, I've been flown out a few times in an aircraft and was kind of curious as to whether it was going to light up again, things of that nature. But they seem to work out.
Is there a specific instance of an airplane emergency when you can recall here?
Well, I tell you, I remember this one time, I'm in a Banshee at night in combat conditions, so there's no running lights on the carrier. It was a ship a lot we were to see in Japan. My radar had jammed, and my homing signal was gone because somebody in Japan was actually using the same frequency. So it was leading me away from where I was supposed to be. And I'm looking down at that big black ocean. So I flip on my map light, and then suddenly, zap, everything shorts out right there in my cockpit. All my instruments are gone, my lights are gone, I can't even tell now what my altitude is. I know I'm running out of fuel, so I'm thinking about ditching the ocean. I look down there, and in the darkness, there's this green trail. It's like a long carpet that's just laid out right beneath me, and it was the algae, right? It was that phosphorescent stuff that gets churned up in the wake of the big ship, and it was just leading me home. And now, if my cockpit lights hadn't shorted out, there's no way I'd have ever been able to see that. So, you never know what events are going to transpire to get you home.
Okay, spacecraft commander Tim Lovell, no stranger to America.
That's kind of a neat story there. Part of that movie, Are You Being a Light That Shines on You? As he had this light trail that brought him home. You see, we can get used to living in the dark. And we need the light. We need Jesus. When I was working at camp as a counselor, lifeguard person, I got to give night hikes. A group could request a night hike. Have you ever been on one of those? 2 people? All right, a couple? Well, night hikes are really cool. No flashlights, no lights. We'd go out at night and we'd hike. So we'd listen for different animals and try to feel the path with our feet to know if we're going to fall or stumble. And but what we did, if we went out there, especially when there was a time when the moon was, a new moon where there's no moonlight, right? You couldn't see anything. But if you stayed out there long enough, your eyes would adjust to it. And then you could see fairly well. Not great, but you could definitely see fairly well at night. And that's just like what I'm talking about here. We can get used to living in the dark. So if we've got ourselves in a negative mindset, or if we've got ourselves going down the wrong path, we can actually get used to that. And then that kind of becomes our norm. And we forget what it's like to live in the light. We forget that we need Jesus because we're working so hard to do it ourselves. You see, we need the light. We need Jesus. We need people like you to be the light for someone. Because all of us had someone that brought us here. We all had a tour guide that led us here. Check out this guy here. His name's Bruce. And he was the one that worked at camp with me. Had a huge impact on my life. And this is us at a baseball game. And this really explains Bruce pretty good. Because it took me 5 pictures to get one of him just sitting still. Bruce is just a wonderful, crazy guy. And what I really learned from him was that being a Christian doesn't mean that you're bound by all these rules and your life is no longer fun. Because that's what I had been thinking as I was going through my time. Like, oh yeah, you have to give up a lot of stuff to become a Christian. And life's a lot of, rigid and no fun. And then I met Bruce. And he shows me a totally different, we're not bound, if anything, we're free, because that's what Jesus offers us. He offers us freedom from this, and he offers us God's grace, so that, yeah, we'll mess up, but you know what, it's okay, because God loves us. And Bruce shows me that it's good to have a fun time. It's okay, that Christians should be happy. That's the way God made us. And so Bruce and I went up to this watch party. I think you were at the watch party, weren't you? That was up in Cleveland. And Missy was there too, and we were up there. Then I had Mason bring his girlfriend with him, and he had just started dating this girl, and I thought, what a better way than to spend 2 hours in the car up and back, and at the game with me and my friend Bruce here to show him what a fun guy he is. So, I thought it was a good idea. I don't know if he did or not, but so, do you have somebody in your life? Who brought you? Who is your tour guide? Who lit the path for you to come to Jesus? And then are you doing that for somebody else? Are you doing that for somebody? John chapter 3, verse 19. This is the verdict. Light has come into the world, but people love darkness instead of light because their deeds were evil. We're just talking about that, people loving darkness. Everyone who does evil hates the light, and will not come into the light for fear that their deeds will be exposed. But whoever lives by the truth comes into the light, so that it may be seen plainly that what they have done has been done in the sight of God. Go ahead and flip to the, yeah, there it is. Has been done in the sight of God. So there again, it talks about living into the light. Yeah, there's darkness out there, but light erases that darkness. And that's what we want to make sure we're leading people to. Matthew 6, I like this in verse 22, it says, now the eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? I like that. Have you ever just talked to somebody or walked up and meet somebody new? And you can see with their eyes. Maybe their eyes are a little bit, they're bright and they're open and they're excited. Or maybe they're a little bit more closed and a little bit more sad. It really does kind of feed, into their soul a little bit. You can see what's going on with them, because we'll end up asking, is everything okay? Just by, their expression. Or how's it going? Things are going pretty good for you? You can kind of tell from their eyes. Now it goes on here to say, now no one can serve two masters. Either you will hate one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. So basically he's saying, you've got to choose light or darkness. You can't do both. Choose light and choose Jesus. And you see, when we choose Jesus, when we choose light, great things happen. We mentioned earlier at the celebration that the morning service is starting month 3. Only month 3. And sometimes, we expect big results real quick. Things are happening. Things are happening in the morning service. They're slow and steady, and it's very good. Things are happening up here, too. For the whole New Way Church, God is at work. I hope you feel that. I hope you see it, and I hope you believe it, because God is at work. New people are coming. It's a very exciting time at New Way. You see, New Way will grow by showing others the light of Jesus. New Way will grow just like that. When we start sharing stories and start being a tour guide to help people come into a relationship with Jesus and understand the grace of God and how exciting that is, churches will grow. God's kingdom will grow based on that. It has nothing to do with all the other things we offer, but it has to do with showing the light of Jesus. See, in 1 Corinthians 8, it tells us, we know that we all possess knowledge, but knowledge puffs up while love builds up. And I like this idea. I don't know if you've ever run across this situation before where someone just kind of talks to you. They're trying to persuade you of a certain way or something, and because they have all this knowledge, but it doesn't translate into actually helping you or taking care of needs or being there when you need them. You see, love builds up. So some things that we can do as we become this tour guide is to show others your light by your actions, your words, and your attitude. All of those speak to what kind of person you are, what kind of God you serve, how much Jesus you've got in you. I know that even as I walk around with my New Way Church shirt on, we even talk with our youth group too about this, that when we go somewhere, we're representing not only God, but we're representing our church too. And things that we do in our actions, our words, and our attitudes are all part of that. Same thing in school when I talk with my students about going out to videotape something, which is funny, we don't videotape anything anymore. Did you know that? That they don't use tapes anymore. It's just recording something. But I always say, hey, you're representing me and you're representing this program. So if you go out there, if you screw up, you're going to be in big trouble. But our actions, our words, and our attitude help shape us. They also help shape the path that we're leading for people to come to Jesus. Luke 1:79. We're going to go back to this and look at it one more time. It says, what are we supposed to do? Is to shine on those living in darkness and in the shadow of death, to guide our feet into the path of peace. It's time to be a tour guide. It's time to talk to your friends and your family and your people in your community, maybe people at work. This is a great time of year to do it at Christmas time. We have the fun Christmas program. We have a Christmas Eve service that will be packed in here. We're doing candlelight and we're doing a communion and all those great things. And it's time to be a tour guide and show others the way to Jesus. There's so many people who are hurt and confused in our circle of influence. They might be family members. They might be people you work with. Whoever they are, though, they're looking for what you already know. And that is the light of Jesus Christ. So you can be this person that lights the path. You can be the tour guide that says, hey, come along with me. I know life is pretty tough right now. I want to help you with it. That's all you have to say. And that's going to get started. Remember, we invite people. Jesus transforms people. Right? All right. Be a tour guide and show others the way of Jesus. Would you have a word of prayer with me tonight? Dear God, we thank you so much for this time together. And Lord, as we just get together for another week ahead of us, as we get to get ready for the holiday season and everything that comes with it, Lord, we just take time to pray and to think of those people that need an invitation on a tour with us to get to know Jesus. Those people that are close to us that we see every day but we don't ask, invite. Family members that maybe we've even fallen away from. People in our community who go hungry, who go homeless, who struggle with jobs, struggle with finances. Lord, help us light the path to you in whatever shape that ends up being. Lord, we thank you that somebody lit the path for us so that we could be here, so that we could know you, that we could experience your love and your joy and your peace, your patience, your kindness. Because without that, we know that we'd be a mess. Lord, this week, we pray that someone crosses our path that we know we're supposed to invite and show the light to you. Be with us this week, Lord. Be with this community. Be with all of us here. Help us to help your reach go beyond our walls, go beyond our families, and go beyond our friend circle into this community, and to truly have a world-changing effect. Lead us, teach us, and guide us in your will.